Justin Alexander Warshaw.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast. We were just chatting before we started about what the brand being your name, but this is a third generation family business producing some of the most iconic wedding dresses. Tell me about just the quick history of the business and the brand.
So we're just over 75 years in existence. We were founded in 1946 by my grandparents, Ted and Shirley Warshaw. And it was actually Shirley's idea. Shirley, my grandmother, had been working at a bridal manufacturer in New York City. My grandpa, Ted, was overseas. He was actually in Japan for World War II. He was stationed over there. And they were sending love letters back and forth. And she was just saying, hey, like, when you come back, I'd love to start a business. I'm working here. What do you think? And she got approval from the wedding dress manufacturer to launch a headpiece company. And they ultimately named it TNG. They wanted to name it TNS, but they decided not to. TS meant tough shit.
Oh.
So ultimately they were, and TNS for their initials, of course, for their first names. But ultimately they went with TNG because they just liked how it sounded. Mm-hmm. Today, I actually kind of rebranded that to Thanks and Good Luck.
Oh,
they
cute.
used to on with every item they sold, and these were headpieces and veils and hats, actually. They used to have a little hang tag that said good luck. Mm. And I was like, okay, how can I reinterpret TNG, which G means nothing, to now mean something? So I've kind of rebranded it as Thanks and Good Luck. But yeah, so 1946, they launched this. For the next 30 years or so, they just built a really successful business manufacturing and selling headpieces, bridal hats, tiaras, and things of that nature.
And bridal hats was like such a
Huge.
big thing. Oh my
Huge.
gosh. I'm excited about hats coming back though, by the way. Please tell me you're going to be doing some.
It's funny that you mentioned that. And we did not talk about this, but we are exploring adding bridal hats. And I've been actually buying some of the vintage bridal hats that are vintage bridal hats.
Oh, wow.
And it's just so awesome to see like what people were wearing back then. And funny enough, like I had an influencer bride in the other day and I pulled out one of the vintage hats and she was like, oh my God, I love that. You know, so like fashion is so circular.
My mom wore a hat at her wedding.
Okay.
And this is in the 80s, early 80s. And it's just
Do you still have it?
I got to ask my dad. I don't know.
You should check if you still have it just because I find them so fun. I want to see it.
I mean, it was such when you look at the photos, I feel like so iconic. And when you look back on weddings in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they all used hats and they looked 100%. So good.
They were amazing.
Okay. So that was TNG. Little did we know.
Exactly. It could have been TNG that your mom wore. So anyway, fast forward 70s, basically my father and his brothers joined the business. 80s, they said, look, we're selling these items that are only, $40 to $100. Mm-hmm. We see these wedding dresses popping up in all the retailers. We should be selling them that as well. Mm-hmm. So they actually explored sourcing wedding dresses from Asia because they were actually founded in Brooklyn, New York, eventually manufacturing the product in Manhattan. So they were manufacturing just adjacent to the Macy's building in New York. So they were manufacturing all the product. It was all domestic production.
Wow.
So fast forward to the 80s. As we know, there was a bit of migration to overseas production. They found partners. They started producing in Hong Kong, Taiwan, eventually China, wedding dresses under the name Sweetheart, actually.
Oh,
a name that's still like around.
That's a great name.
It's a great name. Like my concern with the name Sweetheart was kind of like, does it sound a little misogynist?
I was going to say, are we like talking down? Like, okay, sweetheart.
Exactly.
But the sweetheart is also an iconic shape that I love for bridal gowns.
100%. So, the brand still exists for us a bit, more so in Europe, because actually, funny enough, in the 90s, there was a business before us between my father and his brothers. He took the European side of the business and developed Sweetheart in Europe in basically the 90s and early 2000s. So fast forward, there was a situation where we had a different line with a different name in 2003. And ultimately, the designer that it was named for ended up leaving the business. And my father had this bright idea. He wanted me to join eventually. And he said, well, if I name the the new brand after my son, perhaps he'll definitely join the business.
Well, that was a good hook.
And it absolutely worked. It was very effective. I mean, he knew that I always had my eyes on it. And funny enough, when I went to college, the conversation was, well, Justin, I want you to, after college, go work somewhere else. Go get some experience out in the workforce. Mm-hmm. You know, this was 2003, 2004, right when that had happened, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, fine. And keep in mind, like, I had already worked summers in the warehouse, pick, pack, and shipping. Mm-hmm. In college, I was actually answering customer service emails because this was like the digital age. Like we didn't have
when email just started. Yeah.
Practically so. Like we didn't have employees handling email. Like my father, you know, the marketing side was not his thing. We were a strong manufacturer, great at servicing clients and distributing our product. But marketing, you know, the design side, like just not his things. So I was actually answering, like I would be out having drinks with friends and be like, oh, okay, time to reply to bride's emails, blah, 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 like legitimately. And, you know, so anyway, so I'm at college and he's like, Justin, remember what I said about going to, you know, work somewhere else? You don't even have to finish college. Like, come, I need your help because guess what? Things were changing fast. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at Facebook being launched, things shifting from print to digital. I graduated in 2008 and like that was when, you know, Facebook was exploding, you know, and digital was really changing in a drastic way. So, and we also had that recession. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
It was a hard
There was a question like, because you and I are basically around the same age, same timeline. And there was a question of like, are we going to be able to get jobs?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because it was the housing financial crisis that happened. And
it was massive.
Yeah.
People were not hiring. There was a huge recession right then. And I was lucky where I knew what I wanted to do. But again, it was just a tough time. And for me, it was like the best thing ever because, I mean, there was two things happening. And one was you had to kind of nail all sides of the business at that time. To be successful, clients expected you to service well, you know, have a great finance and strength of company. They didn't want to buy from companies that might not exist in the future. You needed strong marketing, strong design. Like I learned at a tough time when it was ultimately like extremely competitive.
You had to have a good brand.
Good brand
That's when brand started becoming such an important thing.
Exactly. And that's what was my focus when I first started was leaning into marketing side of the business, which had all been done externally. We at that time had one freelance designer. So from there, I kind of said, all right, I'm going to invest in brand. Let's build this up. And also, since the business had only been really in Europe at that time because the business divorce, we had an opportunity to come back to the US and that really was my focus. So I had a great opportunity to really learn. But there was a moment where I was kind of like, do I want to work on both the creative and commercial sides of the business to do this right? Right? Like,
it's hard to do
growing up, like I played sports. I loved fashion, but like this was something different for me. Like I didn't go to fashion school.
I was going to ask you, what did you end up studying
So I studied international business.
Okay.
And for me, that was perfect, obviously, to handle the commercial side of the business. And I learned as much, though, I want to be honest. I learned as much or if not more from my father growing up, visiting the trade shows when I was young and talking to the sales reps and clients and just getting a feel for the industry. But when I joined the business, I said, all right, how do I get a crash course on bridal fashion? Because if I want to do better than my father, I really need to learn the other side of the business. So I really leaned in, you know, visiting accounts, understanding their needs, working directly with brides, visiting our design room. So working on product development with our design team and just being a sponge, learning everything I could. So I didn't know at that time that I was definitely going to design, but I knew that to better steer this company to the next and be a good leader for my generation, for the next generation, the third generation, I needed to really lean into both sides of the business to move things forward. And eventually, because I learned so much and found that I had a knack for merchandising and understanding the styling and the needs of the consumer, that I ultimately ended up designing. But I do take a different approach. I don't hand sketch really. I prefer, because I was trained in graphic design, I use Illustrator, and basically on Adobe, I'm submitting my sketches using, So I illustrate on the computer instead.
That's incredible. Just, it's so interesting because you and I grew up in the industry around the same time. I got into bridal in 2010. 10 with my sister who ran a bridal PR firm. That's how I got.
It's wild.
Yeah. And it was around the time you're entering. And then Loverly launched in 2012. And I remember specifically, it was during the time where magazines were still very much around. People were still purchasing Bridal Guide and Brides Magazine and and there were probably
even Modern Bride, Elegant Bride.
Yeah, I was gonna say there were all the regional magazines. There was so much print, but things were moving to digital, right? This is pre-Pinterest. And my idea for Loverly was how can we service this next generation of consumers with inspiration, information, all in one place, right?
Absolutely.
And it was exactly what you said. It was a time where because of Facebook, people are expecting technology to work and to be really good, right? Yep. They wanted a brand. They wanted the expectations were so high. And similar to you, I had a business background, not a tech or not a creative, right?
But you identified that need.
Yeah. And so had to learn very quickly on the job. But what was interesting is I remember the name Justin Alexander in 2012. I remember being like, there's this young guy, he's coming in, he's got this heritage brand. And I was like, people were talking about it. Like you were like ruffling feathers because the brand really started to get buzz and like people were talking about it. And it was really unique that you were so young in this industry, which was really run by older people.
Exactly. And
what was that like? That's crazy. Like you were what, like 30, 28?
I still have the same length of beard as I had when I was 22 and entered the business, you know, because my father gave me a lot of responsibility. And as I said, I kind of was able to focus on building out marketing, building out design, areas where we really didn't have competency inside the business. I wanted to take us from being a manufacturer to brands. Mm-hmm. And I also built out a marketing team, but I also was managing sales. Mm-hmm. So I had individuals that had been at the company, great salespeople, but they've been at the company a long time. They knew it all. Mm-hmm. They were amazing, but you know, I had to learn from them, but also be the decision maker. And it was a tough thing to juggle because, you know, they did know a lot. And I needed to also though be in charge, make decisions. And again, I wore, the beard because of that. So I looked more mature and I still do to this day. Cause like,
you got a baby face.
I look 5 years younger if I take it off.
Baby face.
But ultimately it was different. And I took my 20s extremely seriously. I was committed to be a friend, but more than anything, I was committed to grow this business because I knew how of a unique opportunity and I had a chip on my shoulder. Mm-hmm. I wanted to prove myself not only to all those people that said, oh yeah, you know, in 2008, it was tough finding a job, but you had one lined up. And my father, you know, because my father had done such a great job of growing the business from generation 1 to generation 2. And I wanted to prove to him that I was also worthy of, you know, taking the keys to the kingdom, mm-hmm. you know, to the company and really bring things to the next level. And I was very, very fortunate that he let me learn on the job, make decisions, good ones, bad ones. Mm-hmm. You learn from not only your mistakes, but also your good decisions. And I was able to do that. And luckily I was making more good decisions than bad. And we've been very lucky to have grown quite a bit in the last, what is it now? Oh my goodness. It's 16 years, 17 years. Yeah.
So today, where can people shop Justin Alexander?
Today,
what's the easiest way?
Well, the easiest way, first of all, we have many brands today. And if you're interested in one of our collections, pop on our website for that specific brand, go to the store locator. We sell approximately 2,000 bridal shops worldwide. Oh, wow. In 60 countries.
So you guys are readily available. If someone has a dress that they see that they like, you can find a store.
We are. And that, yes, absolutely. We are. And, Justin Alexander, for example, is our most popular brand here in the U.S. We're probably in around 400 boutiques in the U.S.
So walk us through all the brands and kind of give me like the snapshot on the brand, kind of the point of view of the style and like price point, just so people who don't know can get like a flavor of the Justin Alexander world.
Absolutely. So I'll start with Adore by Justin Alexander, and I'll start with like the namesake brands, as we like to call them. Adore by Justin Alexander is a little bit more informal, uncomplicated styling. So, we're not doing heavy lace placement. We're keeping it softer, lighter. It's maybe for the city bride or perhaps a destination wedding. So something a little bit more informal. Price points on that collection are around $1,500 to $1,800. So from the namesake brands, it's the most affordable collection. Mm-hmm. Absolutely breathtaking styles. Again, we're focusing a little bit more on modern, clean aesthetic, mm-hmm. if I'm being honest. The next brand I'll focus on is Just Alexander, really our marquee brand. That price point is approximately $1,800 up to, let's say, $2,500 to $3,000. Okay. So the most expensive dresses are closer to $3,000, but the average price is probably around $2,000. That aesthetic is all about timeless, classic. You know, there's some modernity there, but it's like your classic dress. We do clean really well. So we do beautiful sculptural draping. You know, I'm thinking of one dress like Estelle, this natural waisted A-line Mikado dress, just with this beautiful cat eye neckline. It's just like a sophisticated, classic, timeless aesthetic. We bring in laces. So like Alençon lace, we're showing a lot of Alençon lace there. You have a really diverse collection. That's something we really have to do in general in all of our lines because we sell in 60 countries. Yeah. So preferences everywhere are wide, and our shops absolutely love that we do that. We're not a one-trick pony. We really try to merchandise out each brand so they can get what they need and not show the same thing to every one of the brides that come in. Signature, it's our most modern, contemporary line, very fashion forward. I mean, there we're a little bit more experimental with beadwork or silhouette or waistline. And that is the most fun for me to design. It's obviously the most fashion forward, edgy collection. For a girl that wants a unique piece and really make a fashion statement, that's, where she would want to go. But of course, again, we have some gorgeous classic styles there too.
What's the price point of that?
Oh, thank you. Signature starts at around, I think around $2,300 and it goes up to $5,000 retail. The next collection I'll jump into is Sincerity. She is your classic romantic Cinderella princess bride. Price point there is typically around $1,400 to $2,000. So a little bit more affordable of a collection, but gorgeous, breathtaking, classic Cinderella princess styling. Of course, we do fitted styles that also complement those ball gowns and A-lines, but it's just for your everyday girl next door collection. It's a beautiful collection. And then finally, Lillian West. Lillian West is more of our alternative bohemian collection, really soft lace appliques. Softer fabrication, so more chiffons. We don't go in like heavy satin or Mikado. We're keeping it lighter on this collection. So even when we use lace, we're trying to, again, make sure that it's a lighter fabrication in general.
Because it's interesting because lace when you think lace, you can have such a wide variety of how it translates into a dress.
Yeah, exactly. So more like Chantilly lace or like soft romantic appliques that we also use things like trim work to create like sculptural effects. So like it's more figure flattering for the bride. But it's also a very feminine collection, our Lillian West line. What is also interesting is because clean is such a trend, we're also really trying to interpret clean into this collection to make sure that both
what does
shops and brides,
boho romantic clean look like?
Exactly. And of course you can play with sleeves, to really make a dress more romantic. Sorry. You can play with sleeves to make a dress more romantic and alternative. We're also experimenting with more like the opacity or transparency of ruching and details to make it feel a little bit lighter and more feminine. But that's, our new design challenge is really how to bring clean into Lillian West, which is a line that brides love so much. And that trend was so big. I mean, the lace trend has been massive. Lace is still popular, but clean has really taken over and become like the ultimate right now. For sure. Brides.
So in total, that's what, 6? 5?
Yes. And we, there's more that we do. We do some, some other collections. We do a license with, we do the collection for Victor and Rolf. So Victor and Rolf Mariage. We work with them on the product development and we also market and sell the collection, and also Savannah Miller, which, I don't know if you know that line. She's the sister of Sienna Miller. Oh. So they have a beautiful line that's actually mostly bias dresses and really like a romantic perspective. It's a beautiful high-end collection that, it's absolutely stunning.
For any bride, basically stylistically across your collections, there's a dress
exactly
in their ecosystem.
And that's obviously been by design. We've really worked hard to develop the skills of our design rooms to ensure that we can kind of meet any bride's desire. We try not to repeat ourselves as well on our lines and across our lines, because how are we helping brides and our ultimate customers are our retailers, right? We want to give them product that differentiates us and them from the rest
Other
of the stores and
designs.
other designers. Yeah.
Being in the wedding industry for, 12, 13 years now, and going to New York Bridal Fashion Week every year, twice a year,
Okay.
right? And seeing dresses across different designers, just hearing you talk about the number of collections you have, and I don't know how many SKUs you have per collection. How do you every year come up with something new? Like, where is the inspiration coming from? That's like, cause it feels to me overwhelming of like, every time I see them, like, how do they come up with new things every year?
It is, like, sometimes I think about that myself too. And I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, we just nailed this collection. It was difficult for us to get here. Like it took a lot of energy, effort, strong merchandising. We have an amazing merchandising team and outstanding designers, but it's like, how do we keep doing this? Because we just released, X number of new dresses, right? Like, how do we do this again?
How many new dresses a year are you releasing?
So each season we're launching about 180 across our lines. And then per year, so 180 and then 150 because some of our collections are once per year.
Once a year.
It's about 330 dresses per year. What I will say I'm thankful of is that
a dress a day. No pressure.
All right.
You're designing a dress a day.
I wish I had that much time, like each day to spend on design. I wish. But ultimately, what's lucky for us is that, fashion does change. And, we work with incredible lace suppliers and, we actually even design our own laces and materials to, again, work to differentiate our products. But again, I'm thankful that fashion is changing. And just to talk like trend wise, natural waste, like that's been the trend for so many years where we always had, 70% of our lines were natural wasted dresses. If you're stuck designing natural wasted, it gets so boring. So I'm so excited that alternative drop wastes are back.
Drop wastes are just the thing, and I love it.
I'm so excited by it, and I'm obsessed designing into it, and so is the rest of the design team. Bass waste, drop waste, it's so refreshing to be able to, put energy into new designs and, get your creative juices going.
When was the last time you saw drop waste being a thing? Was that like in the 80s?
It was later than the 80s for us. And I'll answer two things. So for us, part of the benefit we have is we've always still designed drop waste and basque waste. We never really fully stop, which gives us, first of all, it gives us a massive advantage to predict trends. Why? Because if a retailer takes a risk on a basque waist and ends up doing very well and repeating on that, brides are loving this dress. We're getting that feedback from the consumer. We then say to all of our other shops and our design team, hey, look, this trend is picking up. So we see trends evolve quicker than anyone else because of the fact that we do all price points and all aesthetics, really. So we had a dress about, I think it must have launched now like 4 or 5 years ago that's still selling really well. But at first it was only in, 15 boutiques. And it was on our signature collection where we are taking those design risks. And it was a gorgeous, clean basque waist ball gown. How many do we see of those right now?
But it's
5
like
years
the dress.
ago, this dress was literally
the only one.
Like there was very few in the market. It was doing great for the shops that have it. And slowly, more and more shops were in different parts of the country, like you have your fashion stores that might have taken it at first. And then ultimately more and more shops take it in. And as we're learning, we're getting this feedback. Oh, we need to begin designing more basque waist. Okay. So we always try to not, and it's the toughest thing we have to do is like, how do we make sure our lines are well designed and very diverse from waistlines, silhouettes? We need to cover all of our bases to ensure that we're really doing the job we want to do. So our eyes are always on ensuring that we're different from the market. And that, again, that really helps us see what's happening in the future. So drop waist, the last time I saw it being really popular, I'm thinking of a style that wasn't even like incredibly drop. It was the Sincerity Style 3771. I even remember the style number. And it was just, I'm talking about like 1.5 to 2 inches of an extended, waistline from the natural waist. So we're talking a 16.5 inch, hollow to waist. And that dress killed it. That was it was very early 2000s, but it was a lace applique dress. It wasn't clean. You know, it wasn't what you're thinking of in terms of the classic drop or, you know, what we're kind of designing into now. But that's been since the 80s. But, you know, the drop waistline, it's such a flattering silhouette. Ultimately, when you have that drop waistline.
And it is really classic and timeless.
It is. Absolutely.
So it's funny when you see like classic, timeless things become super trendy. Right?
It's awesome. I mean, then we can bring inspiration from all different places. You know, so much of our inspiration comes from the designer days, the trunk shows that we do. So just a couple weekends ago, it was second week of January, I was at Kleinfeld and just working with brides, seeing what they're loving, talking about what they would change, what they're looking for, just playing with them, having those conversations is so insightful because our job is to not only just design unique, special dresses, but ultimately you need to have the customer love the dresses. So, you know, we have an idea in our head of these, you know, these trends that will take flight in the bridal space. And we're inspired, of course, by what's happening in the red carpet or vintage couture, but ultimately it needs to work for the bride. So that hands-on experience is so key. Something that I tell like fashion students that I talk to, we have some programs with London College of Fashion and FIT where we're kind of doing these programs and having them design into bridal fashion. Something I tell them, I always recommend, guys, you have to understand your customer. And what that takes is meet your customer.
Yeah, you got to talk to them.
Be with your customer.
Yeah.
But so many designers, I feel, don't want to do that. They want to just be behind a sketch pad, manipulate the product, work with the product prototype. And that's such a challenging part of the job as well. But at the end of the day, we need to create for a consumer. At least that's how we feel. So spending time with the bride is absolutely key.
I want to go back to talk about the wedding business. So one thing you said was that when a bride is selecting the brand or the dress designer, they want to make sure that the brand is actually going to be in business. And I bring this up because I think it was like 3 years ago, we saw like a shudder happen in the wedding industry where biggest retailers, like David's Bridal went bankrupt, I think twice. Right. You know, there was a couple other big brands that just suddenly closed shop. What's your point of view on like, why is that happening? Is the wedding dress business so hard to be in, or people just not keeping up with consumer demands? Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
There are a lot of players in the wedding industry. So it might not seem that to outsiders, but it's actually a competitive space. And as we talked before, like you have to do everything well to make sure that in our case, our retail partners are happy and ultimately, we maintain outstanding relationships with them, do everything we can to make sure we're delivering on all levels. In terms of David's, obviously, I mean, I think they've for years had an inventory problem. And unfortunately, the majority of what they're selling is discounted product. Again, I don't want to
inventory meaning like too much
on their challenges, but they buy inventory to have dresses stocked, right? For brides that are coming in because a lot of their business is off the rack. But when you're doing that, you're making a very steep investment in product you might not ultimately sell at full price. And so their business has kind of evolved into more of a discount business, I think. And that's challenging when the majority of your sales are not happening at full price. You cannot remain in business. Like it's too challenging.
It's not sustainable.
Now, again, not for me to talk about necessarily their business challenges totally, but that's from my vantage what I think their challenge specifically could be. In terms of other brands in our space, I mean, there have been a lot of brands that have been around for a very long time that have closed. Part of it was, I think, succession planning. I mean, I was very lucky to have my father do a great job of mentoring me and also giving me an opportunity. So you have a lot of legacy brands, people that were similar to my father's contemporaries that ultimately didn't have a plan in place or a family member interested in continuing the legacy and running with that collection or brand.
And transitioning that business to kind of modern day, whether it was digital first, brand first.
Because you not only need to have someone that has the desire, but also the skill in order to make sure that, again, like you're saying, you're modernizing the business. So I think that has happened. I think that to a lot of outsiders, also the wedding industry is a very, sexy space to be in. It's recession proof, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a tough business, and it's hard sometimes for outsiders to actually have success because they don't truly understand the customer, both the bride and the bridal shops that are doing the majority of the business still in the US. Because online, while it's growing in popularity and obviously a massive source of inspiration for brides, there's still only a certain percentage of consumers that are comfortable shopping online for their wedding day. Mm-hmm. And I think that it still seems to be less than 25% of consumers are shopping online. Price point, and also like, you want the experience. Like, don't you want to go shop in a boutique that really has expertise mm-hmm. that can guide you through this process, that has curated an incredible selection for you mm-hmm. of great brands and great products that suit all the different aesthetics you might desire, have them walk you through the process, help you, cater to you, answer questions, and lead you down a path that gives you a dress that you're so happy with, and you can dream, you can dream and picture yourself walking down the aisle in. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. And it's honestly like my favorite part of the business is that side of it, like working directly with the brides, helping them find their dream dress mm-hmm. and seeing their faces light up. It's like magical because they're picturing what will be the best day in their lives up until that point. Like, the mm-hmm. wedding is incredible. And we talked a little bit about your story before.
Non-existing wedding.
Maybe you need to plan something. Maybe you need to, capture a little bit of that magic. I know you had something that probably was equal.
I had my engagement party, which felt like my wedding, but yeah, it's definitely, it's on my list. Maybe it's a 2026. Gotta get ahead, give myself some time.
And to each their own. I obviously fully respect when people, choose to live their lives as they want. It's not for everyone, but for me, it was such a magical thing. And I think weddings are fun. When did you get married? I got married September 30th, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. And
what was that like for your wife picking a dress? Like, no pressure.
Just a little bit of pressure. I mean, she had a great design team to work with. Unfortunately, I was not part of that group.
Okay.
I wanted to be, but at the same time, I wanted to be surprised. So I actually sketched some ideas, passed them off to the design team, but they took their own path and designed gorgeous dresses for Kelsey.
How many dresses?
So let's count through this. So we had a civil, because we got married in Tuscany, we had a civil wedding at the town hall or a park nearby our house. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. It was like the best. So she had one dress there. Then when we flew over to Italy, we had a welcome party. So she had one dress there. So that we're up to two. The day of the wedding, of course, she had her ceremony look, a cocktail look, a party dress. And then
she's my kind of girl already. What are we at now? We're at 6 dresses.
We're at 5. The 6th was the brunch look. So we had a pool party the day after and she had a brunch look. So 6 dresses. Look, there was so much pressure in general, there's this pressure being in the industry to have a special wedding. I wanted a wedding. She wanted a wedding, but I felt like there was this pressure to do it a type of way. But Kelsey picked out gorgeous dresses with the design team. She actually wore one that I designed.
Oh, wow.
It was my favorite dress that I had designed up until that point. And she happened to have seen it on my social media when I posted it from a photo shoot I was at, and then inquired with Terry. She's like, what's that dress? And it just so happens that it is my favorite dress. Wow. And she ended up getting to wear it. But what I did to personalize the dress a little bit was I worked with my colleague, Chief of Design, Terry Hilferty, and I illustrated some like sweet nothings or heart with our initials and the date, things like that. And we incorporated them into the veil she wore for the ceremony and also into the dresses themselves. So she had my initials, she had our initials together with a heart, the wedding date. And there was a song actually by J. Cole that we quite like called Love Yours. Mm-hmm. But we had this thing where we also would sign things love, comma, yours. So that was also handwritten on, the veil as well. So it was a lot of fun to personalize her dress a little bit, but Terry and the design team did an incredible job designing her looks, and it was awesome.
I mean, sounds like she killed it.
She did. Yeah, no, she did great. And, it was just one of the dresses she wore was actually a loaner. So like we have programs where shops can borrow dresses or have trunk shows. So she lucky she was able to kind of fit into one of the samples she loved from Victor and Rolf Marriage. So she actually wore that to the civil ceremony. So we didn't even make a so it was we made 5 dresses for her. Let's put it like that. 2 of them, one of them was a Victor and Rolf that was already, physically made. And then one of them was a dress that I had designed that was already on the line. So she had, I guess, 4 custom and 2 dresses that were on our lines. She's a lucky bride.
Speaking of making the dress, and you mentioned off the rack being something that, is hard to do. And a lot of brides, they want a custom experience. When someone's thinking about their wedding dress, right? And they're maybe they just got engaged and they're like doing their research. Like, what do you think is the appropriate timeline for trying on your dress, buying the dress, all of that? Because I think there's a lot of different opinions. This
is such a hot topic, as you've said, and one I love to answer because you have 2 choices if you're a bride. One is be a planner, go early. So at least 8 months, maybe 10 months ideally. So give yourself time. And why you do that is because you then have endless options. If you want to customize your dress and make it truly your own by, changing neckline or altering fabrication, changing the length of the train, adding buttons, adding pockets, altering a dress, right? That takes time. So you don't know what you're going to want until you go into the store. So go into the store to understand what you want and make sure that you have all the options at your disposal. Okay. So I always say more time is much better. Okay. So keep in mind, you can get a dress quicker than 10 months or 8 months, but you're doing yourself a disservice because you're simply limiting your options. Mm-hmm. Because designers like ourselves, we do our best to create options for you if you are on a tighter timeline. And shops are doing the same. Like some shops are openly marketing now a short lead time appointment, for example. They can all service you tighter to the date, but it's not ideal because you're going to be limited to the dresses that are perhaps already in production that brands are saying, oh, I'm predicting that I will need this. Someone are buying off the rack. Like that means someone had to guess that you were going to want that dress. Mm-hmm. So it's less sustainable actually that way because then you're buying from brands that are like overproducing and stocking dresses that ultimately you might or might not want that are in your size, right? Like, so it's much better for so many reasons to give yourself more time, shop earlier. You can personalize, you can get any size, any color, any option. So shopping earlier is key, but of course, you're able to shop tighter, but I don't recommend it. So I always say, I don't like to answer that question without context because we can say 8-10 months, but we also don't want to scare brides into saying, I have to go somewhere else then because someone else is telling me I can come in and buy off the rack. Well, our shops can also, so our retail partners can also service you. It's just you're going to have a little bit more of a limited option and they don't want to limit your options. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a magic moment, as I said, where you can dream up whatever dress you want. You can pick from the selection, you can customize, you can personalize. But to make sure that we can get you that dress that you dream up, more time is better.
My only advice before you go into the dress shop or book your appointment is to have an idea of the type of venue you're going to.
Absolutely.
Because if you haven't booked your venue or even know what kind of venue, I think the dress and the venue, they have 100%. to be cohesive. Yeah, they need a jive because there's nothing worse than, you have a beach wedding that's a very kind of relaxed vibe and then you're showing up.
Basketball gown.
Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, there's probably a way that you could do that very chic, but in general, right? Like the rule of thumb is you want your venue to be set.
To drive the decision.
That's going to drive a lot of the vibe. Or look, if you are all about the dress, get the dress, but then choose a venue that vibes with your dress.
I 100% agree with you there. It is so important that those 2 things, because I mean, look, so much of why brides and today's consumer, we want to have the most epic and amazing photos and memories because we want to preserve this forever. Mm-hmm. And you're just picturing, again, if it doesn't match up, it's
weird.
It's weird. So I 100% agree with what you've said. Figuring out direction for venue is key, but don't wait, go in and visit a shop and really it will make your options limitless.
you have been dominating the wedding dress game for the last,
I wouldn't
10.
say dominate. We're doing the best we
You're doing
can.
great. You're doing great. But what about little white dresses, bridesmaids dresses? Kind of what's your point of view on that?
Bridesmaids has always been a category where obviously we know that we work with bridal shops that are selling them. And we always have looked at it, but we know wedding dresses so well. But we have a design team that can do more. Like I've always wanted to tap my own personal creative juices for, bridesmaids dresses and the rest of my team. So I actually was looped up with a manufacturer that I was actually ironically discussing little white dresses with them, because the challenge we have is our factories produce a certain type of dress. Like they produce a dress with construction and it's so figure flattering and it's just an incredible garment like through and through. But like typically when you see a little white dress, it's a little bit more informal. It's made a little bit differently than the way we make our wedding dresses. So I was looped up with this person that happened to have production in Phoenix, Arizona. And I was just speaking to them about whether or not they could help manufacture little white dresses for us. And the gentleman basically says to me, he says, I don't want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about bridesmaids dresses. And I said, I don't really have an incredible interest on that right now. It's a tough space. In all honesty, there are brands that are shipping direct from Asia that are doing it well and at very competitive price points. Like it's almost challenging. Our retailers don't even carry bridesmaids often. So he convinced me, though, to just humor things out he convinced me to really review this opportunity with him. And what they were looking to create was something that really had never been done before, which was on-demand production of party dresses or bridesmaids dresses. What that means is they were looking to receive an order and within 2 weeks ship that garment, micro-sized, made for you based on the color you're selecting. So what's beautiful about that, of course, is the sustainability component, how you can also book that order closer to the wear date. It's made in America.
Within 2 weeks?
Within 2 weeks. So
wow.
That whole thing was like, whoa, that's very exciting. So I began speaking to some of my customers about that, whether that was compelling to them. And I talked to both stores that did bridesmaids already and ones that were interested in maybe adding the category back. So there lies we launched Justin Alexander Studio. It's launching officially around end of March. The site is live now, but we're going to have our full assortment or the initial assortment of all of our dresses on our website. But it's an absolutely incredible thing. We're making dresses in America on demand, micro size. So inch increments on sizing, 23 different colors. It's going to be three different fabrications. We're starting with a satin charmeuse and a crepe, and we're going to be adding chiffon styles very soon. But it's awesome to be making dresses in America. And, we're very excited to be doing that and changing up the game, but giving bridesmaids and brides another option of made in America product that is made on demand and more sustainable.
I'm interested when you mentioned made in America. I know there's been a lot of conversation and fear about the cost of goods going up with tariffs that are happening. Yeah. How is that going to impact the bride at the end of the day when it comes to dresses or their fashion?
So if tariffs are instituted, and as of now, it appears that is happening, and there's going to be a 10% increase on goods coming in from China. Now, that will impact wedding dresses. So for companies like ourselves that do import some dresses from China, the costs are going to increase for us. And it's up to us to decide how we manage that, whether we're bearing that solely, we're engaging, the production facilities, seeing if they can help a little bit, or if we're passing that on to the consumer. And in Justin Alexander's case, in our case, with the initial tariffs, we're not going to be increasing pricing. But I can say that we're in a unique scenario because we're not fully reliant on made in China product. We also produce in Myanmar and Vietnam, and only half of our production is in China right now. Every manufacturer is different, so it really will depend on their unique situation. We're also very lucky where we can shift more production to Myanmar or Vietnam if we want to, because our biggest factories in China also have affiliate factories in those other countries. So we're very, very fortunate there. Now, the other big thing that came out of those recent like tariff actions was this thing called de minimis. De minimis has been around for quite some time. De minimis allows basically production in other countries to be shipped to consumers direct without paying any duties. So originally, I think in the Barack Obama days, it was around $200. Okay. So originally if you were shipping product, so if I was shipping you product and it was less than $200, I would not have to pay duty. It was then updated to be $800. So it means that companies in China or Asia or anywhere that are producing a product that had a retail price of less than $800, they would have to pay no duties.
If they ship directly to the consumer.
Exactly. So this would mean, any bridesmaids company, Amazon, everyone.
Shein, Temu.
So they've been paying zero duties. So they've been paying nothing. And now, because of the, at least in the wedding dress category, it's right now, well, it was 23.5. Today, after the change that was effective today, actually, it's now up to 33.5% when you're importing goods from China. So what's happening for those Chinese companies right now is, in the case of wedding dresses, went from 0, now it's at 33.5. So in those cases, the China direct companies, the Asia direct companies are going to be paying a lot more. Mm-hmm. And it is very likely that the cost that they're bearing is going to be passed on to consumers.
Well, I think people don't realize that through Amazon, there is a really big bridesmaids dress business. Now, not my personal aesthetic. Yeah. Not something that I would purchase. But if you go to Amazon and you search bridesmaids dresses, there are a lot of dresses on there.
Yeah.
And their price point is like $50, $60. So it's a lower price point. But you get what you pay for, right? You're getting cheaper quality materials. Design is not that great.
Looking like it.
What you thought, exactly.
What you saw in the photo.
But price aside, now if it's not 50, but it's 65, 70, you might as well be buying from like a regular brand or retail. You know what I mean? It's still very, very cheap for a bridesmaid.
It's still very cheap. It's still cheap. But again, as you said, you're getting what you're paying for.
Yeah. And I just think it's interesting, right? Like I never even knew that was a thing, but it is a thing. Like bridesmaid dresses on Amazon.
Ironically, a lot of those products, and there's counterfeiting.
Oh, I've been duped. I've been duped. I bought a dress on Amazon.
You don't expect it to happen, but legitimately, it happens on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I've been duped on Instagram. This is probably like 5 years ago. This gorgeous dress from this, it sounded like a boutique. I was like, oh, this is cute. I bought it. It was like sparkly with like little like floral. It showed up and it literally was like a scratchy piece of material shoved into a ball. I'm like, oh my God, I just paid like $85 for
Could you return it?
No.
Were you able to?
No. I totally got scammed. I got totally scammed. And that traumatized me. I now won't do Instagram direct stores unless I go and I look at their profile and I'm like, are other people buying it? Yeah. But I got scammed and I thought I was a pretty savvy consumer. But the same thing does happen on Amazon. You have to read the reviews. You got to
100%.
But
counterfeiting, I don't know if consumers know this, but it's a big thing in the wedding space. Our images are being used and these companies are trying to sell direct to consumers, but it's not our product and it looks nothing like it when you get it.
Wait, I've totally seen that on Alibaba. There's these gorgeous images that clearly are U.S.
manufacturer brands.
Yeah.
Brands images that they're literally just taking our images and that's what's happening on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's probably not a legit brand. It's probably a reseller, a counterfeiter, same folks that might be selling stuff on Shein. It's all the same people that are just taking these images and trying to make a product and
that's the worst thing ever on your wedding day. If you spend money on something and then you can't get your money back and it's like.
And the big thing too is a lot of these producers are producing in a non-sustainable way. When you're buying these dresses that are coming in directly, a single shipment directly for you from China. Yeah. It's just a not sustainable thing. We have gotten to this point where we expect this immediate satisfaction on everything. But it's kind of taken a toll, I think, on the environment in that, one of the goals for us, and trust me, I know this, we're in the wedding dress space. It's a one-time wear. We're already trying our best.
But it's a heritage piece. You keep it forever
but I'm just, it's hard for me it's almost hypocritical to say that, okay, a wedding dress is sustainable in any way. But we have to work hard to make it as sustainable as it can be, and how we produce, how we source, who our partners are, that there are ethics and standards in how they make that we're giving back to in other ways. I mean, it's a big reason why I like partnering with Vow for Girls. We're donating an offsetting carbon footprint in what we do. So we're trying to make it as sustainable as possible. So, but thank you for saying that. It absolutely is an heirloom piece.
Yeah.
And it's important, and it's such a special moment in your life, and you want to have a dress that reflects your personality and shows how you want look and feel in that special day. But, shipping by air is like the number one least sustainable part of the supply chain in bridal fashion. We work very hard at trying to shift as much of our shipments by sea. It's not possible to do this when you're buying from Amazon, from China direct companies. They have no interest in that. They're just shipping direct to consumer, a single item, and they're not, because what we do is we're importing by sea in bulk. It's efficient, it's cost effective, and it really has a much less impact in carbon footprint.
Well, we've been spoiled as a culture because we expect things every day, next day prime. And then we forget, and we don't want to look at the floating piles of plastic and clothes that are literally
accumulating everywhere.
They're like islands of clothes.
And to that point, like to your point also about the wedding dress being an heirloom piece, we're not overproducing. We're not going through this overproduction, right? Whereas in so many other industries, that's happening in a big way because of consumer behaviors or expectations and the need to build up this supply to meet demand. This is also why I love what we're doing on Justin Alexander Studio. We don't even need sample inventory. Shops aren't necessarily going to keep the full range of products, right? It's going to be like the most sustainable way to bring.
It's like you're going to have the shapes and then choose the color, and that's it.
Absolutely. We have the dresses. We're of course going to have a photo shoot sample. We have a photo shoot to make sure that, brides can really see what these dresses look like on a body. But ultimately, the bride will see a small selection of the dresses, make her recommendations in terms of an outfit guide. So what color palette, what style, if she wants to pick a style that she wants the bridesmaids to wear. And then ultimately,
what's the price point going to be?
Price point is going to be a range from about $180 up to $399. So it's mid to higher price point.
I say 180 to 220 is like that. If you get
that's the sweet,
that's like really affordable.
But it's going to be going up. Right? That is something that I think will end up going up because that doesn't consider the changing de minimis rule. So the thing is, our price point doesn't have to go up because we're making it in America.
There's nothing that drives me more crazy. And I might get hate for saying this, but when I see on TikTok the hauls, where someone will go to like a Temu or a Shein, like, oh, wedding guest looks, and they order like 30 dresses because they're like $4 each, right? Yeah. And they maybe spend $250, right, on all of these dresses because they're only going to wear one, right? And it nets out. But it kills me because I just think about all of the waste, and it's like, one, it's for the content too. Yeah. So sorry, content creators, don't hate on me, but like it hurts my soul because I'm just thinking about
partner with brands though.
Yeah.
Partner with some brands. Like, I think what incentivizes these people is they're probably also being compensated and like getting some sort of affiliate, whatever for these hauls. And it is a shame.
I do want to hear your point of view on influencers and influencer weddings. I know, with Loverly and Justin Alexander, we have a partnership where we're actually working with some influencers to help make their dream dresses come to life, right? How do you think about working with influencers and brides? And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people reach out, but I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean, we think it's an important part of our general marketing strategy nowadays, just because it's new media. You have your legacy media, magazines that have evolved into digital presences. You have brands like yourself, your brand, Loverly, right? Doing a great job also communicating a digital side, but also partnering with influencers. But it's a great way to round out the strategy. Ultimately, for us, it's best when we're working with a real bride. Because a real bride is making an authentic decision about a dress she's selecting. The other side of it, of course, is try on and all that good stuff. There are bridal influencers that do an incredible job that are creating and curating a following. So they're ultimately doing a similar thing that you're doing, serving up content to brides and showing different dresses and providing some inspiration. So I think both of them are really useful. We love partnering with, real brides to
on their journey.
Yeah. And, sometimes we'll do a custom look, or we'll select a dress that's already on the collection. We'll partner with a local retailer, which we love doing because it really shows what it's like to be a bride, right? Mm-hmm. So when we do it with a shop, it's even better because you get to shop at a wonderful boutique with expert stylists, and really see things through the lens of a bride that is going through that exact experience that you'll eventually go through as a bride. So we love that side of it too. But it's important.
I love how much you emphasize the bridal shop experience, because I think a lot of brides, when they get engaged, have an idea in their mind of what they want their look to be. And they go into a shop and, they try on the dresses that they think that they imagine themselves in, and they're not hitting. It's not landing, right? But when you're at a shop where there are stylists who fully understand, body types, styles, and also like what is available, they can curate dresses that you would never think when you're looking at on a hanger that you could even imagine yourself in it. And I feel like so many brides I speak to are shocked by the dress they select. It's not one they chose, but rather like the stylist recommends it to them. And like there's no way you could do it on your own. You need an expert.
100%. And that's the best recommendation you have. Find yourself a shop that has great reviews, great stylists, and these stylists are like guides for brides. You know what I mean?
One of my friends basically became best friends with her stylist because she was getting going in for her tailoring, and then she invited her to the wedding. And I'm like, who's this new friend? She's like, oh, it's my bridal stylist.
I love that.
That she got at the shop. Yeah.
But honestly, the stylists are incredible. And as you said, it's such an opportunity to also try things on that you never expected to like. And it's your moment to do that. I mean, when are you ever going to try on wedding dresses again? Now, I'm saying this like I try on wedding dresses. Obviously, I don't. But I've experienced this. And again, brides are often surprised that they like something or that they hate something. Mm-hmm. But it's still fun for them to have that experience in store. And working with a stylist that kind of helps you, make an edit of, hey, here are things that you liked. We're going to pull these. I pulled 3 more like that might compliment. Like, I see that you're trying to do this. You're like, you don't want that neckline. I found this that we should rule out. Let's try this on. Then also just trying on some things that just reinforce the dress you end up picking, because that's also what's really cool is like, all right, well, I didn't want this. And I was right that I know I was right about clarity. This.
Yeah.
And when you compare those sorts of feelings you have when you're in the product, in the wedding dress itself, like that's when you know it's yours, is because you feel different. As you can tell, one of my main missions is supporting retailers, just because, 100% of our business is through, we don't have our own, we don't sell wedding dresses anywhere else. This
has been incredible. You are such a wealth of information, not just on bridal fashion, but also the industry. I feel like I got an MBA in this conversation, but I want to leave with just a few tips for brides who are navigating the wedding dress shopping experience now. What are your kind of final tips that you would leave with the bride?
We talked a little bit about timelines. So first of all, giving yourself enough time to shop so that your options are really limitless. You also said, hey, grab that Pinterest board or go on Loverly, browse the collections, and get an idea of things that you definitely want to try on. The next thing is a really big one. Find yourself a boutique that has incredible stylists and great reviews, that carries some of those brands that you've had some interest in, or has a really strong selection of diverse dresses. When you go in, you're going to go in with this idea of what you're going to end up wearing, or many brides do. Some have no idea, but many girls or brides go in and say, I'm going to end up in this type of dress. But have some bravery and courage and try on some things that you never would have expected you would like or want to try on, because ultimately it's your opportunity to do that. And not only might you find something that you love and end up wearing on your wedding day, you might actually reinforce your original feelings, and that also helps. But this is your one time to do this. And this is about you. This dress is a reflection of yourself and how you want to feel on your wedding day. So while other opinions matter, it's how you feel. So if you have any trouble, guests that, want to pop in and you're a little nervous about them being there because you really want to feel beautiful and feel yourself, maybe don't invite them, when you're shopping. Yeah, I know that's a hard thing for you to do.
Limit the group.
Limit the group. If you can, if you're worried about someone being there, it's hard to do, but this is about you and your experience. And I know you want everyone to be there for you, but too many opinions can also be tough. Mm-hmm. And it's about how you feel in the dress and not, what everyone else thinks. And it's an expression of you. So, those are really my top tips for brides. And, it's a magical day itself. Like, it's a very special day, the dress shopping day. But when you have found that dress, it's okay to commit to that dress. Just like you committed to your partner. Don't feel like you have to go shop a million places. When you know it's the one, let it be the one. You know what I mean? Say yes when you know it's the dress.
This has been the Loverly Wedding Podcast. We are hosted by Kelly Khalil, produced by Natasha Barkman, Kayla Fitzgerald, and Jennifer Alvarado. Watch the podcast on YouTube by subscribing to our channel, and you can follow and listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and every major RSS feed.